There are certain lines in cinematic history that even if you're not a big fan of the film, you know what it means. Darth Vader's big reveal in The Empire Strikes Back. Tom Hanks saying, "Houston, we have a problem," in Apollo 13. And, of course, the one line that Gandalf is always associated with.
Shall not pass!
Most of the times when we hear these words said, it's usually somebody parodying them. The movie's 20 years old at this point. But there's something really deep going on here. And that's where I'm really excited about this retreat coming up here in the Archdiocese of Louisville called the Servants of the Secret Fire. It's going to tie in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings and the theology of its Catholic writer. And I think it's something some of you should check out.
Urban bluegrass and the Bible.
Anybody that's known me for any length of time knows that I love J.R.R. Tolkien, particularly The Lord of the Rings. My entire basement is kind of an homage to the Eagle and Child pub where Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and their friends would get together and discuss what they were working on and just kind of muse about the world that they lived in and the work in front of them. And so Tolkien is the most represented author on my bookshelf. My entire basement is an homage to kind of his work. I call it the Beorn's Sleeping Bear Pub after one of the characters in The Hobbit. It's kind of my passion. I love this book, and I'm so excited about this retreat coming up. So when I first heard about it, my friend John Soule at the Family Renewal Project, which is an apostolate in the Archdiocese of Louisville, they're the ones putting this on, and they're going to have Father Cameron with the Fathers of Mercy come up to our region to help facilitate this. But they're calling it Servants of the Secret Fire. And if you haven't read Tolkien, that might sound a little awkward. It might sound like some sort of fantasy gibberish, but it actually has a deeper meaning. And if you've ever watched the films that Peter Jackson made in the early 2000s, this scene is obviously memorable. So I want to break the scene down and go into a little bit of Tolkien's theology and kind of give you a taste of what you might hear on this retreat and encourage any of you that are interested to take part because I think it's going to be an awesome opportunity.
I am a servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of Arnor. The dark fire will not avail you, flame of Udun! Go back to the shadow.
So if you've only seen the movies, a lot of this doesn't make a lot of sense. It sounds great, but what's actually going on here? You got to open up this book, and honestly, you got to open up the others. You got to open up the Silmarillion and really get into the weeds about this stuff because we forget Gandalf is not an old man. Gandalf is a Maiar. In Tolkien's mythology, there's a lot going on, and this little scene is talking about stuff that happened at the beginning of the world. When he says, I wield the flame of Arnor, he's saying Arnor is an Elvish word for sun, the flame of the sun. I was there when the sun was created. I wield that kind of fire more than any molten fire from the core of the earth could summon. I harness the power of a star. Well, in his case, a tree, and that's a whole nother issue. But this is a big deal. He's calling, he's like, dude, you're nothing. I'm stopping you right here. Which is kind of a gutsy thing. I mean, you're standing in front of a Balrog. It's a demon. It's smoke and fire, and it's a demon. It invokes the imagery of hell. So it's really a big deal. And we forget this. Gandalf looks like an old man. So does Sauron, the other wizards that we see in these books. They're Maiar. They're the same angelic species that Sauron once was. Sauron is a Maiar too. And they serve greater beings called the Valar. Sauron's not the real bad guy. Melkor is, but that's a whole nother story. We're getting into too much here. But when he's saying, I wield the flame of Arnor, I wield the power of the sun, and I'm a servant of the secret fire. Now this is key. In the beginning, Eru, God, creates the world, and there's a fire, and he teaches the angelic community to sing a song. Now, there's one, the devil, Melkor, who sings discord into the song. And God basically looks at him like, look, dude, no matter what you do, everything will come to an end as I see it. And I am all good and I am the creator. You're not going to mess this up. No matter how bad it gets, I'm going to win in the end. And that's why Gandalf is ultimately here in Middle-earth. He's come as an angelic being. He's sent to Middle-earth to lead and guide. You know, Gandalf invokes Christ's priestly role. He's prophetic. Aragorn is the kingly role. Frodo is the sacrificial. But he is the prophetic role. And what he says there to the Balrog, I am a servant of the secret fire. That's the Holy Spirit. He's saying, I serve the Holy Spirit. I serve something so great that creates everything. You can't even fathom how much power it has. And so there's a lot being said there. You know, Gandalf has another name. It's Olorin. It's, you know, his Maiar name in the Silmarillion. It's really, really in depth, but like we miss it because we read or just watch a film and we don't see it. When you read Tolkien, Tolkien is writing the entire history, language, theology, philosophy, history. It's all melded into Middle-earth. It has its own set of things. I always tell people, if you're reading Lord of the Rings, you're reading the Middle-earth version of the Book of Revelation. This is where all of the wars come to an end. The devil has been fought in the beginning. Melkor, he's the devil. He's thrown into the void. He's trapped. But his servant, the Antichrist, Sauron, he's still in the world. He's still pulling people away to worship Melkor. This is why Numenor falls. If you've watched the ghastly, awful Rings of Power, it misses all of this, but that's why Numenor falls. Just don't watch Ring of Power. It's really bad. Jackson didn't do perfect, but he tried to stay with the theme and the undertones of the book pretty well. Did he change more than he should have? Absolutely. Is The Hobbit a disaster? Absolutely. But for the most part, the three films, The Fellowship, The Two Towers, The Return of the King, I think he's respectful of what we're talking about here. And that's why I think this retreat would be so great for a lot of you. I think we're going to get into a lot of depth about what is being said in these books because it's important to remember who wrote them. Tolkien said, Lord of the Rings is, of course, a fundamentally religious and Catholic book. Unconsciously so at first, but consciously so in the revision. He really did weave his faith into these books and the whole work that he did. You know, The Hobbit started out as a tale for his children. And then 20 years later, we get The Lord of the Rings. Well, 17 roughly. But anyway, by that time, these children had grown into adults. He leaves them with a story of there is good in the world. It's worth fighting for. And that's exactly what Gandalf talks about in the films and in the book. Now, of course, in the book, it comes much earlier in the Shire, but I'm going to leave you with this today. But think about this. What do you want to serve? What good do you want to do in this world? And what do you need to strengthen yourself to do it? If you're looking for that, I honestly think this retreat would be a good idea for you guys to check out. So if you live near the Archdiocese of Louisville or close by, maybe sign up for this retreat. You know, if you're in southern Indiana, you know, maybe down in Tennessee or, you know, maybe as far away as Ohio, West Virginia, and you want to make the drive in, I think this will be a great thing. I'm going to put a link down in the description, and I think you ought to check it out. I think it'll be worth your time. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you learned a little something, and I hope it encourages you to go find more, maybe at this retreat, and I hope you guys have a very blessed day.
Urban bluegrass and the Bible.